So the book of Acts gives us the model for reaching the ends of the earth. So I'm in Burma right now. The island of Bali is absolutely spectacular. We are in Cambodia here. This is a beautiful family that lives in a village that we've done distributions with. In the Great Commission, let's remember Jesus said, go and make disciples of all nations. And for us at World Mission, it's really important that the Word of God be a part of that. I mean, how can you really become a disciple if you don't have access to the Word of God? We are in Kor, the middle of Rendili land, and all these brothers are Rendili pastors. So are you guys happy about these units?
Yes.
All right. Cambodia is an amazing country. It's surrounded by Laos, Vietnam, and Thailand. And the 16 million people that live here, they say about 85% are Buddhists, and many of them have never heard the gospel for the first time.
Welcome to the Great Commission Update with Greg Kelly. And Greg, this is a very special show. My name is Rusty Humphreys. He's Greg. And Greg, you've got somebody there. And what's interesting is if you're watching right now, all you see is a globe and like a black thing, Greg. And but you've actually got somebody behind there.
Yeah, sure.
First of all, why are we hiding this person?
Well, this happens to be one of our national partners. David oversees all of our work in Bangladesh. So he's our country director for the country of Bangladesh. And Bangladesh, Rusty, is just one of those countries that is heavily populated primarily with Muslims. It's 99% Muslim. And those people who profess faith in Christ, there's a tremendous amount of persecution they face. And David is one of those. So the reason he's behind that is just to keep his identity sort of as safe as we can. We know this is online, so we want to be sensitive about that. But this brother is full of insight and knowledge, not only about Bangladesh, but just about Islam in general. So we're excited to have him share with us today.
Well, David, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you.
Well, we sure appreciate you being here. Tell me, so you're from Bangladesh. For people that don't know, where is that?
Bangladesh is in between Myanmar and India. It's actually surrounded by India, almost two-thirds, a little bit by Myanmar. It's a small country, size of, we can say, lower peninsula of Michigan. And we can say 165 million people, about 175 million people lives in there, which is half of the United States people living in lower peninsula of Michigan.
So that means it's really packed, right? There's a lot of people there.
It's very crowded, and you see like, I think now it became the most populated in the world because it's about 1,800 per square kilometers.
Wow.
1,800 people lives in per square kilometers, so you can believe how much land they have and how many people they have right now.
Greg, have you been there?
I have. Actually, I've done some initial kind of some of the research on it, but I've been there several times. And it's actually about the lower peninsula, so David's right. It'd be about very similar in size to Iowa. And when I was looking at that, I was kind of curious. And so the population of Iowa is like 3 million people. The population of Bangladesh is 168 million. So it's one of the most densely populated countries in the world. So, I mean, it's just a real crazy, and it's very low elevation. So they have a lot of difficulties with flooding. So when the typhoons come up through the Bay of Bengal in that area, I mean, it's just catastrophic because some of the people are living along the coast. So, and that's a pretty regular event. So you'll hear about Bangladesh and natural disasters pretty regularly.
So are people just living on top of each other? I mean, is it mostly like apartment living? Is it a hut? I have no idea. What is it like there, Dave?
Yeah, David, respond to that one.
Well, the government has very little control over where the people lives. It's like wherever they find a place, they build their home, and the cultivating the crops land is as kind of eliminating day by day. But there is 14 million lives in Dhaka city alone. So there is a same kind of city like Chittagong, and they have similar population there. So yeah, it is very populated, and people lives everywhere. There is no rules that where you can live, where you can build.
Greg, what is the mission for World Mission in Bangladesh? What is it that you are trying? I mean, obviously, it's the Great Commission. That's
Right.
important.
Yeah.
And again, for folks who are just joining us, let's start off with, again, what is the Great Commission? And then what is the goal in Bangladesh?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's you're right, Rusty. That's where it's got to begin. And so the Great Commission, Jesus' final words, where he told us to go make disciples of all nations. And as you and I speak every week and we talk about this, it just makes sense that when we sort of process Jesus' last words, we ask ourselves, how are we doing as it relates to that? And the answer, as it relates specifically to the 100 and almost 70 million people in Bangladesh, is we're not doing very well. So it's basically a country that's 99% Muslim, less than 0.5% Christian, evangelical population, which is different, as you know, of just the mass number of just Christianity in general, is unknown. So it's hardly a mark on the screen. So for us, the reason we're in there, Rusty, is because of that issue. You know, so many people, not only are they not Christian, but they've never heard the gospel. And so when we go into a place like Bangladesh, we have to use people like David, who are nationals, who are from there, who speak the language, who understand the dynamics. And really, when you're talking about these countries that are primarily Muslim, when you're dealing with a Muslim and trying to share the gospel with them, it's not, it's a very specialized approach. Okay. You have to understand their culture and the context to be able to connect with them.
David, are you really that nervous about your life that you don't want to have your face on a video just talking about what's going on in Bangladesh? Is it really that dangerous?
Well, I'm not personally nervous, but most of my friends and family, they're nervous more than me. Mm-hmm. And you know that there is a lot of foreigners got killed, which I shouldn't speak in here. Because only they're Christian and they're preaching God's gospel over there. So I'm not really nervous about that, but you know.
All right. So Greg, he's a tough guy. Are you more nervous than he is about his life? Is it that? Are you concerned?
You know, I think we have to take this in the proper context. So when David became a follower of Jesus, so he's what we call an MBB, a Muslim background believer. And that gives him an advantage of an understanding of the Quran, of just the Muslim context. But when David became a follower of Jesus, I think like about 3 decades ago, his father hired somebody to kill him.
What?
So yeah, it's real. I mean, maybe 30 years ago he might have been more endangered, but the reason that we're protecting him is because he still has family members over there, and as they hear him about evangelizing and doing ministry in Bangladesh, it's not even so much him that they're going to come after. I mean, if he lives in the U.S., he'll visit there, and he and I have a trip coming up where we'll be going to Bangladesh. But his family literally could potentially be endangered.
Wow. Okay. David, why convert? I mean, what did you say? 98% is Muslim? I mean, that's probably even low. It's 99.9%, right? In that area?
Actually, there is like about 10% Hindu. So
okay.
Not 10%. 88% was the last statistics we heard about. 88% Muslim and about 10% is Hindu, and the rest of those Buddhist and the other religion. So if I talk about myself, how I became followers of Jesus, and that's a big story, but I can.
I'd like to hear it because we've heard that becoming a Christian in a Muslim country, it's a death penalty. Is that still true?
Yeah, exactly. If you go, if you ever read the Quran, there is like 10 verses in Quran. It says, anybody who harass Muhammad, anybody who convert to other religion, they're subject to be killed. So that's directly they are saying in the Quran that it's only sentence is death penalty.
So, I mean, that's one of the things that there's not a lot of dispute about. It's pretty clear, cut and dry in the Quran, that converting is death penalty.
Right. So that's why when you compare, when I start looking at other religion, when I found out that there is another religion that exists, being a Muslim background and family is all Muslim, and when I found out that there is another religion exists in this world, and I became very curious and I studied a lot, Quran and Bible. And I found out that there is a Quran also saying to the people that you have to be believer of Jesus. There is a verse in Surah Al-Nisa. It's a Surah Al-Nisa, chapter 4, 159. It says, everyone in this world, before they die, have to be a believers of Jesus. So, and there is another verse that's directly telling to Muhammad, is Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 68. And Allah is telling to Muhammad that if you are not accepting Torah and Injil, which is given by God, and you are not establishing anything. So we have to think about that Quran giving directly a platform that you have to believe in Injil, which is Bible.
Wow.
So that's how and there is a lot of verses in Quran that it says, if we don't establish biblical truth in our life, they are not going to the heaven, or they are not going to have eternal life. That's how I decided to be a follower of Jesus. And if you compare to Bible, like in John 5:24, it says, if you believe in me and if you believe in who sent me, and you are not subject to be die. You cross the death, and you're going to have eternal life. So that's how I decided to be follower as Jesus.
I think, Rusty, most people wouldn't realize how much is in the Quran that also parallels the Bible. So you've got a lot of figures in the Old Testament: Abraham, Moses, Isaac, Jacob, spoken of very favorably.
Mary.
I mean, it's in the Bible.
Right.
Mary.
Mary's in there.
And Jesus too, right? I mean, David just said that, they expect you to believe in Jesus. So they're believing in his teaching. They're believing him as a great prophet. They're believing him, even that he did miracles. The issue becomes Jesus, the Son of God. That's where the whole common ground just goes sideways, which is why when we're doing ministry to Muslims, and David would train his team in the field and all the other places that World Mission works, all of the national partners are very trained and familiar with Old Testament and Quran common ground. That's where they start. And so you're building a bridge relationally, and you're getting them to recognize that, these are, the same ground. And the reason behind that is you want the Muslim to, when they listen to you, to feel like what you're saying has credibility.
Right.
Isn't contrary to the Quran, which is very important. So a lot of times they'll even get them to the place where they'll say, okay, this is a holy book.
Right.
And now once they've, with their own mouth, have stated that, now all of a sudden you have a path forward to begin talking about the prophecies of Jesus and then the fulfillment of them, which of course is what the New Testament is about. Right. And so it's a real interesting process.
David, is it very difficult to get that started with someone there?
Well, one thing I want to tell you, Rusty, that 98% Muslim recite Quran and they don't understand a word. And if few of those understood what Quran said, which is now available in Bengali and everything, but they don't want to read those things.
They don't? Why?
They're not allowed to read those because they're like stuck with their tradition and the family and the social relation.
So they're only allowed to read it in Arabic?
Arabic is the only language that supposed to be the Quran, and that's why people don't. They read. Bengali is available, but as I said, that they are stuck with their own tradition and family bonding. They don't do anything. But if they really read the Quran, and Quran is the one who's telling you to follow Jesus, to follow Injil, which is Bible. So since they don't understand Arabic and all the mullahs are preaching in everywhere about Quran, it's like a business. If they don't tell the truth, if they tell the truth, they're losing their business.
So, Greg, it almost sounds like that is a perfect place for the treasure, the little audio Bible that you have, because if they're not reading in Arabic, I'm guessing that the literacy rate is a little bit lower there. So being able to listen on audiobook is probably a great thing, right?
It is. And before I talk about that, Rusty, let me just back up 1 second, because I think Dave is touching on a critical point here when we think about Islam and ministry to Muslims. As he said, so much of Islam is communicated and shared and passed on primarily with Arabic. That is the language of Islam, if you will. And so as I'm communicating in Arabic, it becomes pretty singular and pretty constraining as far as who I can communicate with. And so therefore, so much of Islam is a cultural religion. In other words, because I was born into it, it'd be no different than us saying there's cultural Christians, and probably, so much of America is that. Well, if I had to be pressed on what religion, I guess I'm Christian because that's kind of what my mom and dad say, and I've been to a church a few times, but it's not necessarily a conviction. Now, here's the big difference, Rusty. For someone to break away from that culture in Christianity, not so big of a deal. Hey, I'm going to quit going to church. I mean, what's the repercussions or the punishment? I mean, quite honestly, in our sort of politically correct environment, it's not that big of a deal, and almost maybe even celebrated, if you will. But in the Islamic or Muslim culture, there are massive consequences. So you will be cut off from your family, even if you're a nominal Muslim, and you just are like, yeah, okay, I get it. I'm a Muslim in name only. But when you break away from that and say, hey, I think I want to follow Hinduism or, God forbid, Christianity, I mean, they throw everything at you. They'll cut you off from family. As David said, if there's a genuine conversion to Christianity, it could literally mean your life. But we hear stories all the time of wives being taken away. And they have, I mean, imagine that. Imagine you living in a culture and a society where the leader of that area, the imam, has the authority to take away your wife, take away your children, take away your physical possessions. And it's legal. I mean, it's not like they're doing some illegal sort of in the middle of the night kind of, savagery. This is accepted and tolerated in the culture. That's the big difference that I think most people don't understand. So coming back to your question on the Word of God, it absolutely gives us a tremendous advantage when we can put it in the common language because, and this is what you're talking about here, the treasure, our solar-powered audio Bible, that we have in thousands of languages. So, one of the most beautiful things that we hear, Rusty, when we distribute the treasure is someone saying, your God speaks my language. And all of a sudden, it becomes very personal, very intimate. And that, at the end of the day, is really what we're after. We're after individuals in an authentic, genuine way making the decision. Because, when it's all said and done, my mom's not answering for me. My dad's not answering. My wife, my kids, I alone am the only person that can give account of my own life. And the question is going to be that all of us face is, what'd you do with my son? Right. What'd you do with Jesus? That all of us are going to have to answer that question one day, Rusty. And if I don't have any kind of personal connection, I'm not going to have a very good answer to that.
Okay. I want to talk to David more. I know you do too. But, listening to a podcast, you don't have a lot of time. So what I want to do is kind of take a break, and we'll do a part 2. And I want to hear some stories. I want to hear what is really like. What things did David experience? Before we do that, though, you are able to help David in his ministry. Greg, how can people help him and you make an impact in part of the world that really needs some help?
Yeah, well, David, as our national partner and really director over Bangladesh, there's a lot of opportunities we have, Rusty, and David has some training opportunities coming up. David is fluent also in the Rohingya language, and on one of our last episodes, we spoke specifically about the Rohingya as one of the largest refugee people groups in the world today, where there's 1 million of them living inside the country of Bangladesh. So we're doing outreaches there, Rusty. We need help with that. People can go to our website, worldmission.cc. They can click on donate and just hit the humanitarian outreach tab and let us know, and we'll make sure that David gets some assistance as he's reaching out to the Rohingya. And then we also want to get more treasures in there. We're being asked almost every day for more. What we would put on this is we would load Bengali, the Bengali language on here, which is spoken by most of the 170 million people living in Bangladesh. And then we'd also put the Rohingya language on there, going back to the point of your God speaks my language. And so we want to load treasures by the thousands and send them into Bangladesh, because if you've got 170 million people and 99% of them are unreached or have not heard the gospel, that's a lot of treasures we've got to send in there.
A lot of treasures. So worldmission.cc, correct?
Worldmission.cc.
Worldmission.cc, and that's where you can go and make a big difference and help David in his mission to help complete the Great Commission. David, thank you very much. We're going to talk to you in the next episode. Will you tell us some stories of some people that you've reached?
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Again, go to worldmission.cc, not .com, .cc, and find out more about World Mission and find out how you can help the Great Commission. Greg Kelly, thank you so much for this Great Commission update. We'll see you next time. I'm Rusty Humphreys, and this is the Great Commission Update.